All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to be the host of our Pro 10 team call. And, we always talk about our call and why we call it the Pro 10 team call. Well, it's because we are all on that road. It doesn't matter if you're brand new, just getting started, and you've reached the rank of Pro 1 all the way up through Pro 10. We are on that road together, and all of us are locking arms, learning from one another as we continue to grow our businesses and touch people's lives. So we have a very special person on the call tonight, but before we get started, we have many guests on the call tonight, too. I actually wanted to use this call as a call to help introduce and to do a third-party validation for many guests that are actually looking at our business tonight. So welcome to all the guests on the call, and those of you that are distributors and customers, I'd like to thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to invest into the knowledge of your business and of your product. Just so you all know, my name is Nancy Leavitt. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I've been a part of Lifevantage since the ribbon cutting ceremony 3 years ago, actually in May of 2008. It has been such a wonderful blessing in my life. But how I got involved is the same way most of you did. I actually saw the ABC Primetime Investigative Report. I got excited. I looked at a little bit of the science, and I said, there is no way I'm going to sit on the sideline and watch this company go to $1 billion in sales without me. I knew that without a doubt that we would be the next billion-dollar company in this industry. My background's 20 years in health, fitness, nutrition. I have extensive background in network marketing, and I'd never seen anything like this. And so I got on the product. I had incredible product results, more energy, felt better. A lot of different things went on with me, and you can call me personally, and I can share my testimonial with you personally. But what really grabbed me was the opportunity. Timing is everything. You hear me talk about how I compare this to people saying, real estate is location, location, location. And in a business like this, it is timing, timing, timing. And the timing is perfect right now. Our first year, we squeaked by with $11 million. The second year, just shy of $40 million. This last year, $126 million. And if we keep up this growth, we're going to be hitting $1 billion within the next couple of years. So this is exciting. And the largest part of the growth is going to be happening, and you all are in the beginning stages. So we are thrilled to have each of you on the line tonight. And we're here to do these calls the first and the third Wednesday nights of the month. Many leaders within Lifevantage have team training calls. I like to do mine just 2 times a month, and I like to feature special guests, people that really touch my life and people that I consider a mentor, even though I just met this gentleman. But I tell you what, I met him and his wife. I heard him on stage before at big events. And I literally saw him, and I just looked at him and said, I love you. Didn't I, Dr. Marvin?
Yes, yes, you did.
and he has such an amazing, amazing heart for people. And that's what I love the most about him and his wife and the things that they're doing. And so tonight we're going to feature him. He's going to talk about his why and what he is doing with this income he has created, not only for himself, but for many people in Lifevantage. But before I bring him on, Dr. Marvin, I want to give you a proper introduction, and I'm actually going to just go through his bio real quick with you. He's received a degree in pharmacy and a doctor of medicine from the University of Kansas, and he's been in practice for over 50 years. After spending 18 years in general practice, he served 5 years as assistant professor in the Department of Family Practice at the University of Kansas Medical Center. He then returned to private practice, and in 1988, he was asked to serve as department chairman of Family, Community, and Geriatric Medicine at Oral Roberts University School of Medicine in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Dr. and Mrs. Marvin returned to the Kansas City area in 1993, and he also was a host and teacher of a radio program entitled What's Up, Doc? Dr. Marvin is now retired from the practice of traditional medicine, but maintains his membership in the American Academy of Family Physicians and American Medical Association, and is also an elected member on the Board of Regents for Oxford Graduate School. But the most fabulous thing and credential to me, Dr. Marvin, is that you are now an elite Pro 8 distributor on your way to the very top ranks of the company, Pro 9 and Pro 10. And you've been involved with Lifevantage for about 16 months, I believe. And it is out of his pure heart for people. That's what I see, I attribute his success to. And when you meet this gentleman, which I hope you all will one day, if you ever get a chance, always check on Big Blue calendar and see where he's traveling. I believe he's going to be in Oklahoma at the beginning of November. But you definitely want to meet this man. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Marvin.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It was a pleasure to meet you in Minneapolis. And it's a pleasure to meet all people that have this goal in mind, where they can help fellow man with this degree of help. The key is how, when we approach people, we say, how happy will you allow yourself to be? Happy physically, happy financially, both. And that's the key. It takes the monkey off of us and puts a square on the other person. And, you don't get discouraged. You just keep trying to find people that want to be happy and change their life. But I'm here to talk about my why. A few years ago, about 4 or 5, I had a missionary come back from Tanzania. And he got a hold of me because his wife had 2 lumps in her breast that had been diagnosed by sonography as cancer. And so he wanted me to direct his treatment of his wife through this challenge she faced. Being in Tanzania isn't a place where you can get an awfully lot of medical backup. So they came back to the States, left their mission field, and were replaced by another missionary. And make a long story short, over those next few years, I got to know this couple very well. When she became cancer-free, not with Protandim, because I didn't know anything about Protandim in those days, they decided that their heart was still in Tanzania. So they went back to the country of Tanzania. And their old mission was filled. But there was a new mission that they were introduced to, and that is of 2.7 million homeless children, 2 to 11 years of age. These are AIDS orphans, and over there, prostitutes do not use any type of birth control because it's not available. So the babies that the prostitutes have are also homeless because they don't keep them. They give them away, and most of the time, they're just passed from mother to mother until they get big enough that they can hide with the rest of the street children that are homeless. And their big nemesis is they're being kidnapped and taken to Europe, to Belgium, Germany, and Sweden for sex slaves. These are children nobody wants. And they don't have any mother or fathers. So these 2 missionaries of mine, Jerry and Tammy Bacchus, B-A-C-K-U-S, set up an orphanage. And they filled that orphanage with a lot of volunteers helping them, because some of these are infants. And so we have to have volunteer grandmothers, so to speak, that can rock them when they're crying and feed them formula, milk, whatever the availability is, and love them, because a baby will perish that isn't loved. That's been proven scientifically. You take a baby and put him in a nursery and never touch him, he'll die, because the touch is in generating the love that comes from touch, generates the life in a little child. I get emotional when I talk about it. Anyhow, so he filled 2 orphanages with the help of myself and some other people. When I was introduced to Protandim, I saw the opportunity to really help these children in Tanzania. My financial advisor said, you got to be out of your living mind at work at your age, because you have enough. You don't need to. You can live anywhere you want in the world, and you don't need any more money with anything. I said, yes, I do. I need the money for those little kids. I desperately need it. And to fulfill this whole story that is amazing to me when I look at it, you see, when I was born, I was homeless. And why? I relate so much to those 2.7 million kids in Tanzania. The woman that had me gave me to an old country doctor. And that old country doctor knew that the only parents I knew, my adopted parents, had lost 5 babies. They would turn yellow within the first 5 to 7 days and die. And they were heartbroken, particularly my mother. She had lost 5 babies. The oldest one lived 7 days. Now, in those days, they didn't know about RH incompatibility, but that's what it was. I found out when I went through med school. One of the strings attached to that old country doctor that delivered me was that I had belonged to him for the first week of my life. Therefore, he told my parents the only string attached to them having me, all systems go, was that I had to be brought down to him every year on my birthday, the 24th of August. And he would set me on his lap, and I don't remember this until I was 5 or 6. I would play with his stethoscope, and he'd say, Norman, you're going to be a doctor. Just like me. Well, they didn't know about brainwashing in those days, but from the time I was 5 years old, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I was obsessed with. And my mother bought me a play doctor's kit with her certificate in it, and at 7, I made it out in pen. And when I graduated from medical school, she found it and had it framed. So that certificate hangs in my office. And it says, Little Country Doctor, and the year. And it hangs right below my real one from the University of Kansas and the state of Kansas. But I'm telling you this, why I connected and related to 2.7 million orphans. I was an orphan, and I knew I was an orphan because my mother told me she didn't want to keep any secrets from me. And she told me before I went to grade school, Norman, you were adopted. You don't know what that means, but I want to tell you, everybody normally has to take what they get when they have a baby. But we chose you. We chose you to raise. So that made me feel special rather than abandoned. Anyhow, when I heard about these orphans, I went wild. And so it just so happened in perfect timing, within a month, I found out about the need. And so I told my wife, that is my why. I'm going to give them $1 million a year if it kills me for those little kids. That's my goal. I haven't reached it yet, but I'm still working. I'm still working ravishly to be 9 and then 10. And I send them the money every month. And it's getting up to be very, very helpful because now the country of Tanzania has found favor with this project. And they have given us $1.3 million worth of the richest land in Tanzania. Because there's enough officials over in Tanzania that have a heart for little abandoned kids. And you can go to my website, www.docmarvin.com, and you can see what the little kids look like. And you can see some of the adult. We have some people here going over there to help. It's so heart-wrenching when you hear the whole story. And we have some people in Florida that are going to presently be going to volunteer, no salary, working for nothing. They're before retirement. One is in his 40s. And he has inherited some money to live on. He's going over there to spend as much of his life as he can afford, help saving all those little kids who are helpless and homeless. So we just this week finished our first infant orphanage. These are infants. They take special care because they're infants now and they're on bottles, and we have to be very careful how we feed them because a lot of them are malnourished because they didn't find help quick enough. You see, the kidnappers kidnapping these kids. Therefore, they have to hide. And many times they only eat one meal a day. Sometimes it's garbage they eat. Sometimes it's fruit that's fallen off a tree, half rotten, and they take the good part out and eat it. These are amazing children. Let me tell you a story. We had 4 little 4-year-olds that were living as a family, 4 years old. 2 of them were scouts looking out for kidnappers because they'd seen them kidnap kids around them, and they were scared of them because they put a sack over these kids, and they never see daylight till they're in Germany, Belgium, or Sweden. So they have a fear of them. And they get them at night, and they hear them crying and fighting and squalling, depending on how old they are. So they have 2 in this group of 4 that were lookouts. And they were looking out for their danger, the kidnappers. The other 2 were food procurers, and they would sleep a different place every night, so no one could know where they were. Now, some of the officials found out about them, and they were pretty malnourished. And so they had big, large bellies because of lack of a good diet. It's called kwashiorkor in their language. And it can kill kids from malnutrition. So the officials of the land found out about them. They went and asked them if they'd come to my missionary people. And it took quite a while for them to have trust in them because they were white, just like the kidnappers. And so finally Jerry and Tammy found favor with the 4-year-olds. And now they are in our orphanage and flourishing. They're healthy again because they get meat. They eat mealy meal. It's stable diet. I've been there. I've been over in that country. I can't stand mealy meal. It's ground corn boiled. Nothing else. And I couldn't live on it 3 meals a day. And that's what they live on it mostly until they get to our orphanage, where we have a diet that they can have. And we finance food. It's wonderful. Food is cheap over there because the economy is so low. Now, the reason why the country gave us $1.3 million worth of land, we intend to house over 2 million kids. And what we have to do is we make a large compound with a circle. We have a 9-foot cement block wall with razor wire on top of it and 3,000 volts on the razor wire. That's how sought after these kids are. They were trying to pole vault over that just prior to us fixing that so it couldn't happen. And what they were doing, they would wait in Tanzania till the electricity was off, which goes off 2 to 4 hours a day. And they would get in sometimes and get out with those kids because we just didn't have enough manpower to guard and protect them. But now my missionary has saved up funds that we've sent him, and he has bought a solar generator that automatically goes on for that razor wire whenever the country's electricity goes off. So now they get literally a shock when they try to get in when the electricity's off. Pitch dark everywhere, and you can see the sparks when they hit the razor wire. So anyhow, that's what I'm doing. We have in the center of this big compound we're building a large 1-room building, which will be a school on 5 days a week, and on the weekend, Saturday will be for rest and relaxation and games, and Sunday will be for church. We teach them to read and write. We teach them the needs for daily living. We teach them everything we can, depending on their age. When they're too young to learn, we take care of them and love them, hold them and hug them and love them, because that's what they need. They're totally been forsaken, all of them. And what drives my why, if you remember, it says in a book, the oldest book available, as You've done it unto the least of these my brethren. You've done it unto me. Now, you didn't know you were going to get such a sob heart tonight, but when you talk about my why, it fits the criteria of Carrie Dickey. Your why must make you cry, and mine does. Now, Nancy, I don't know whether I've covered everything you wanted me to cover or not.
Well, I'm sitting here crying as well. I just love your mission, and I love your heart. And I'd like you to share. I mean, you obviously wouldn't choose just anything to facilitate, your why. You chose Lifevantage, for a reason, because of the product and the science and all those things. And one thing that I hear you talk about that really grabs me is, I've heard you say this a couple times, is that you have seen more miracles. And I know, and we're not saying that
Sure.
tandem cures, treats, mitigates any disease, but I've heard you say that this product, since being in Lifevantage, you've seen more miracles in the last 15, 16 months than you did in 54 years of practicing as a physician. Can you just talk about that briefly?
Sure. I'd say I've seen 100 times more. I have a dear friend I just got off the phone with. He's a pastor, and he's building a youth home for wayward kids that's desperately needed. He has to have $400,000. And his wife is such a miracle, that's what drives him. His wife was in a car wreck 11 years ago and has been living in a wheelchair, and at the best, going from wheelchair to a dinner table with crutches, unable to walk. The first day I met her, she had been on Protandim roughly about 4 months, and she walked in without a limp. Now, she had no disease. She had residual damage to her body. That's not a disease. And she had multiple bone fractures of her lower extremities, and she wasn't able to walk. And see, I didn't know this because she walked in with her husband just as well as I walked in. And she sat down and then shared what I just shared with you. And the people in the room, half of them knew her previously. And she was the presentation that day. It didn't take me speaking long. Pointing to her, I made her the presentation, and they all had seen her. And I've seen that many, many times. Here's the thing. We have in our hands what's called a category creator. When beta blockers come in and alpha blockers in medicine, they were a category creator. There's never been anything like them, and they're still a separate entity in medicine. This is also a category creator. And the future medical books and teachings in medical schools will be of an NRF2 activator. That will be where we are. At the present time, there is only one in the world. We have no competition. Abbott Laboratories has spent $400 million trying to duplicate Protandim in a chemical, and they've got one that they're testing. Its activity as an NRF2 activator is on the scale of 19. Ours is 139. We have really still no competition. And if you don't believe with the effectiveness of this competition, 1 year of Protandim costs $480. 1 year of Zymogen, this copy, costs $25,000. Do you compare $40 a month to $2,000 a month? No. It's an academic exercise because that has side effects. It has toxicity in it. Ours doesn't. So when I saw that this is a category creator, nothing else like it, and when I started, I couldn't believe this. A lady called me and said, Dr. Marvin, I have a product. I was a cold call. I have a product I think you'll love. I happened to be laying down reading, and I said to her, I didn't know her, total stranger. She found my number in the yellow pages. And she told her husband, I'm going to call this doctor. He said, I know him faintly, and you'll get nowhere with him. Don't call him. And he told her that 3 times, and she told me later, the more Don told me not to call you, the more I knew I had to. Woman's intuition. So she said, I have a product I think you'll love. I said, I'm not looking for a product. She said, this is a wonderful product. I think you'll love it. I said, look, if it's an MLM, my wife hates MLM so bad, I'll be sleeping in the front yard and probably eating grass because she won't feed me. She said, I think you'll love this product, Dr. Marvin. I could not get her off my back. After many more, I think you'll love this product, Dr. Marvin. In a sweet, sweet voice. She's a white-haired lady, just as sweet as sugar in her demeanor, in her attitude. Very calm, very loving. She said, if you'll come to a meeting, we call them premier meetings, and there's going to be one in 3 days. And it was about 8 to 9 blocks from where I live. If you'll come, I'll give you a bottle of this product that I think you'll love. I said, okay. I got some way to get her off my back. So I agreed to go, and I did. And she gave me a bottle of Protandim. And I saw Eric Albertson, who I didn't know from anybody, who's a friend of mine now. And I saw him give a tremendous presentation. And I started thinking about all the science that he showed. I knew everything was solid, but I'd never seen it before in that way. So I went home, I took a pill, my wife took a pill. On Sunday, I took a pill, my wife took a pill. And on Monday, I took a pill, my wife took a pill. Now, I had some stiff joints, and my base of my right hand, my base of my thumb, where I held a pen to write prescriptions, I tell people it was my penalty for writing so many prescriptions over those years. It was stiff and inflamed, and it was red and swollen. And Monday evening, over a cup of coffee, my wife said to me, have you noticed any difference since you've taken this yellow pill? And I swung my right arm and says, no. And then I looked at the base of my right thumb. I wiggled my thumb. There was no pain, no stiffness, no swelling, no redness. Everything had gone down. It had never been diagnosed as any disease. It was gone. The inflammation, and all I knew was there was inflammation. And it would hurt when it was going to rain and things like that. It was gone. No swelling, no redness, no nothing. Now, you'd have to be wall-eyed stupid not to say, this has got to be looked into. How many other people are in the situation I am? I didn't need the money. I didn't need anything, but I needed that thumb to quit throbbing at night. And it was in 3 days. So from then, to best describe me, Nancy, I was like a blind dog in a meat house. I went wild. I read everything available. I was luckily taken under the wing of, well, really, Carolyn Clark through Carrie Dickey. They were my mentors because my upline had no good source to feed me all I wanted. I was like a hound dog after this. And so Carolyn would send me 6 emails a day on the science, and I read every one of them. And Carrie would feed things to Carolyn, and that's how they mentored me. And I just started signing people up. I didn't understand the comp plan from nothing. I didn't understand the comp plan until I was a Pro 7. Because, I just believed that computer would do its work if I would do my work. So I just went like a hound dog. Now, I want to tell you 2 things. One, I never went to my old patients. Some of my old patients that had become close friends, I did go to. But I didn't go to my patient base. I started building my downline outside of Kansas City. My smallest downline is in my hometown. I have probably 20, 25 distributors in my hometown. I have approaching 6,000 people in my downline from all other states, including Australia and Canada. So the second thing I want to say, being a physician was a hindrance instead of a help. Now, it helps you in the science. I knew the diseases and where they were rated and categorized, and I knew the science. I spent 5 years studying genetics. So that'll give you an idea how this was made for me, because this changes gene expression. Okay, so why was being a doctor a hindrance? Because I'd go and show a program with a PowerPoint and give all of the science, and a person sitting there, say a housewife or a man who's a plumber, listening to my presentation would say, I could never get into medicine like that. I'd have to go to med school. I can't make a PowerPoint, which my wife makes. I can't project them on a big screen like that. I don't have a projector. It costs $700. I can't do this. So when I do a flip chart now, instead of all that, I make it simple. I do a lot of home meetings. At first, I'd only do large room meetings. But that mostly produced PCs, preferred customers. Where it's at is home meetings or small meetings, from 7 to 10 to 12, maybe 20. And I use a flip chart, I call it. You know, where you have the points about Protandim on one side, and on the other side you have the business. And you can get those on pro10trainer.com. And I use those now. And I read on them. You know, I know everything's on both sides. But I read them visually to them. I hold them in my hands and read them. Turn them over and read them. Why do I do that? Because anybody in the audience that can read English can duplicate what I do. And it doesn't make me feel embarrassed to read anything. It shows them they can do it. I present this science and technology and the business opportunity in such a way a person can sign up this morning and do a meeting tonight. Because all they need is for me to hand them one of those flip-over charts that you can get on pro10trainer.com. And they're on their way. Now, if they can't read English, they may have to study them a little bit, because we do have some foreign people that are doing it here that are in the United States and have a social number. And they are, you know, learning how to read it, and I go over it with them 2 or 3 times so they can help themselves. And I tell the people, how happy will you allow yourself to be? Because we have an answer, we have a gift, we have a treasure that we want to show you and tell you. Now, if you don't want to be happy, or you think it's too big a risk to be happy, we'll talk to you after the meeting and share with you how you can do it. And so that's how I do it. I have a lot of doctors call me. I don't try to recruit doctors. I take care of the doctor's patients, let them go and recruit the doctors. I have a man with a devastating illness down in Texarkana that had to be lifted into his church over 3 steps in a wheelchair for 11 years. After 2.5 months, he walked into the church, almost destroyed the whole church meeting. They see him walking and sitting down in the pew, no crutches, no cane, no wheelchair. He was the presentation. And they all just couldn't stand the way they flocked around him and wondered what had happened, what he had taken or what had done. Actually, they thought that he had somebody lay hands on him, because that's the only way they felt, because they knew he'd been taking medicine for 11 years. And he said, no. And he whips out the bottle and says, it's a little yellow pill in here. Well, they practically mobbed him. And his brother is under me, and his brother had signed him up and hadn't even told me because he wasn't sure it would help him. It totally reversed his life. And now he's doing what I'm doing, simple and easy, duplicatable. And you see, when I do a fancy meeting with all the flourish and all the science, that's more or less my self-ego. It doesn't do much but raise goose pimples on people. And I'm glad to do a science meeting, say, once a month just for people of interest, but I don't emphasize those meetings. I emphasize the simple, duplicatable, flip chart meeting. And it works, folks. It works. I had one lady that did a meeting and she was so scared, legs trembling, arms, everything. She shook all over. We had to sit down so it wouldn't be obvious she's shaking so much. And I was doing a Bible study that night in the church, and I had made a commitment, so I couldn't be on to give her support. After it was over, I called her, and I said, how'd it go? And she said, oh, it was terrible. I was so nervous I didn't know what I was doing. I sat down so people wouldn't see me shaking. And I said, then what happened? She said, once I got positioned, my mind went totally blank. I said, what'd you do? She said, well, there were 12 people showed up. And I was so scared, I never talked to 12 people. And I just shared from my heart what this had done for me. She had had no disease, but she had been bankrupt. She had lost her home, her farm. She had 6 hungry kids. She was living in an abandoned house that had been abandoned 20 years with her and her husband. And she said, I just shared what it had done for me and my family. I said, well, it can't be that bad. Did anybody sign up? She said, oh, Dr. Marvin, they all signed up. Now, that's an example of making it simple.
Sometimes it's just about humbling ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah, I could do all kinds of fanciness, but that only makes me look like some special person. I'm no special person. I'm an ordinary person. And so I quit doing those very soon after I started, only by request and with the understanding it wasn't for new people. It was for mostly distributors so they'd understand and maybe have a better belief in what this does. But I want to help people, and I want to help a housewife that's been bankrupt with 6 hungry kids that she couldn't get from the grocery store enough food to keep them full. She hadn't bought any clothes for herself for 10 years. She was wearing old tennis shoes, jeans with holes in them, and that was what she wore for 10 years. Not so anymore. As the person said, she ain't po no more.
Oh, I love that. I love that. She was at our meeting in Minneapolis, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Yes.
That was her.
That's an amazing story. She grew up in South Dakota, and she actually knows my sister and my nephew-in-law's family, so we were chatting about that. Such a small world. You know what I love about... Oh, go ahead.
I asked her, what really drove you? She paid the $630 on a credit card they'd kept pure because in case of a crisis they had some kind of money for a month anyhow. And she used that credit card. She paid it off in less than a week. And she hasn't stopped yet. She's now working on 7. She's going to 10. And you better get out of her way if you are in her way, because she's going and she's bulletproof.
Yeah,
I said to her, what drove you that way and what made you so bulletproof? She said, 6 hungry kids will motivate any mother.
I can relate. I definitely can relate. You know, this type of business model, Dr. Marvin, what I've always loved about it all these years it's an average person's best chance to make an above average income, and that's what we're doing. And those of us that have higher degrees, and think we're special, and we have special, qualifications. The more we can just lay that down and humble ourselves and be duplicable, that's when you can reach thousands and thousands of people, because you want people to say, me too, not so what. You want people to say, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's what I love about you and how you relate with people. And my favorite is the woman that called you, how she just covered you in love. She just said, Dr. Marvin, you'll love this product. So the theme to your success, and I think the theme to my success, is I learned how to humble myself. I went from being very, very successful to shattered, broken, single, 4 hungry kids looking at me. And when I just laid down my life and I humbled myself and I chose to love and to do this in a way to serve others and to really have servanthood leadership, that's when I started to prosper in all areas of my life. And, having the why that you have, I'm so excited to partner with you and to help you and help all those children. That's been my heart's desire for years and years, is to help children in need like that. And so I'm super excited about that.
You can see the pictures of my kids on www.Marvin, all one word, .com, and click on why, and you can see those little kids. And there's the husband and wife of the 2 white adults there. The husband and wife are my 2 missionaries, and the 3 kids on their lap, they've had to adopt legally as their own. Their names are Bacchus. The 2 older ones are little girls that their grandfather was molesting them sexually. And the country declared him an unfit custodian, but told my missionaries they'd have to legally adopt him because he could go to court and still get those 2 little girls. One was 9, one was 11, and he was molesting them. The younger boy had passed through 5 families that didn't want him. And they brought him to Jerry and Tammy, and they named him after their son they'd lost. David is his name. He was born around Easter, so they give him Easter as a birthday. And I just wanted to say one thing, Nancy. The Bible says, humble yourself unto the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in due season. And that's the answer to what you just said.
That's right.
I recently heard Seth Moulner, one of my favorite speakers in Lifevantage, Moulder, Moulder. He's a pro-10. And he told us in one of his presentations, he said there's a secret weapon for success in Lifevantage. And I'm not going to tell you until the last sentence. And so we listened to this our presentation. And he said, all right, are you ready for the secret weapon? Everybody was poised to write it down. He said, folks, it's love. Love. Because the Bible says love never fails. Not many things on this globe never fail, but that never fails. And that's what that lady attacked me with, was love. And I still love her to pieces, and I see her. And every day she writes down my group volume. And she is the first one to call me when I make a new promotion. When I make Pro 9, she'll call me the first one. She's my biggest fan. Now she, of course, hasn't grown. She's a 4, a Pro 4, and I'm a Pro 8. That doesn't bother her one bit. She's more proud of me making Pro 8 if they made Pro 6. She truly, Sheridan, covers me with love. And I never knew the lady. Never knew her. Never heard of her. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. And you know what I just think is so cool is that your mother chose you, but most importantly, God chose you to do big, big things and to leave this earth a better place. And we are so fortunate to be able to know you and work with you. And you are blessing so many lives at your young age of, can I ask you your age, you handsome devil?
83.
83. Oh, my goodness. And you are just rocking it. You're just not stopping. I love it. You and Audine are really an inspiration. You really are.
I went to Minneapolis to see you. The next weekend, I was in California. I did a meeting in Redding, and then I did a meeting in Napa Valley.
Mm-hmm. You were traveling on the Limitless tour, weren't you?
Yes.
That's fantastic. You are going. I love it. You know, everyone on the... Oh, go ahead.
I'm sure going to be in Las Vegas.
I know. Hey, we are going to be there. I'm so excited to see you and Audine again. And I hope everyone on the line, you will just bust through the crowd and go meet Dr. Marvin and look in his eye and shake his hand. You'll probably just say, I love you too, just like I did.
Well, call me on my cell phone and I'll make it a point to meet anybody that calls me.
Thank you.
And my cell phone number, can I give it?
Please, that'd be great.
816-392-6498. 816-392-6498. I give that to you because I want to meet everybody I can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you always answer your phone live. I mean, I'm amazed at you and the time that you have carved out to really serve everyone in Lifevantage, because you're not my upline, but you know, we are all a team, and I tell you what, when you serve the way you serve, people will do backflips to help you as well. So if you ever need me in any city, anywhere, anytime, you need my testimonial, you need just another voice, I'm absolutely here for you, okay?
Okay, I appreciate that. And we are we're in the same downline because we're both elites.
That's right. Praise God.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. And, you know, this call, usually I have 30 minutes, but I just love just listening to you chat and sharing your heart and your love for people. So, again, thank you. And I'm actually going to unmute the lines real quick. Okay. Actually, I tried to unmute it, didn't unmute. If you'd like to unmute your line, you just push *6, anyone. And I'd like everyone to just unmute. And everybody just tell Dr. Marvin thank you. Y'all shout out at the same time and say thank you and tell us good night if you'd like. You don't have to if you want to. But, again, this is Nancy Leavitt from Minneapolis, and I would like to say thank you so much, everyone, for being on the call. And Dr. Marvin, God bless you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
God bless you, and I love you.
I love you, too. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.